what Apple hardware the panel picked and why, and cycle tracking on the Apple Watch. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 2 in a 3-part MacVoices live conversation that had a lot of different subjects going. This time around, we polled the panel on what new Apple devices they purchased, which configurations and why, and also get into an intense discussion of the new cycle tracking capabilities of the Apple Watch. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking.
All right, so just for fun, I did a continuity camera shot with my iPhone 12 Pro, and of course the image is sitting in preview now, but since I haven't saved it, I can't tell you what format it currently is.
I can tell you right now because normally I'm looking at it right now too, and the RAW is usually up at the top right. It's not there.
Okay, so it's sitting in preview as HEIC.
Right.
Okay.
Which is still going to be good for about 90% of the people out there.
Right.
Just that 10%, give or take, that we're talking about that really want the ProRAW.
Hey, speaking of
the ProRAW format.
Continuity camera. I'm sorry, real fast. Does anybody else have the problem where it keeps trying to connect to your Mac at this point when you turn it on? Or is that a bug that I'm having?
I'm betting that's a bug.
Yeah.
All right.
Haven't seen that.
That's fine.
Anything else that anybody has seen or jumps out at them?
Is everybody getting their new stuff?
Well, that was going to be my next question, Jim. Yeah. But Andrew, what were you going to say before we get to that?
One last thing I wanted to mention is that the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max do have that 48 megapixel sensor, but that only those larger, RAW file formats only happen if you're shooting in Apple's ProRAW. If you're just shooting, if you have that turned off, it's just going to continue with their regular 12 megapixel file sizes that we're all used to.
Right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I still haven't watched any of the keynote stuff. So when you're shooting what normal people will shoot, which is not 48 megapixel stuff, what the sensor is doing is grouping the pixels, so you're getting more light for each pixel that you will see in the 12 megapixel shot, so potentially more detail.
Yeah, they did have that quad pixel new feature that kind of groups pixels for some feature or another. Mm-hmm. I saw on Twitter, Halide posted a tweet about this, and they said the sensor will, like, if you have ProRAW turned off, it will like kind of crop the sensor, the photo that you're taking, to make it that 12 megapixel file size.
Okay.
But I thought it was like what Jeff said, but not more detail. I think it's just more light per pixel.
More light per pixel. So, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's turning 4 smaller pixels into 1 pixel that gets saved, and I think it averages. So it's maybe a little more accurate and better in low light.
Yeah, and less noise in general.
Like that.
And less noise, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot about that quad pixel. I mean, I've heard some people talk about it, but I really haven't seen any articles on it. It'll be interesting to see once this gets into the hands of the folks who know how to measure those things, just what the implications are before and after. So, so before we go on, I want to know what everybody ordered, or if you ordered anything. Because I know last week we talked about what we would order. What did anybody actually order? Eric, start with you. What did you actually order? Because you were the guy I think that was going to order one of everything.
Well, my case came in.
Which
Me too.
I was all excited. A picture was sent and it looks like a phone kind of. Oh, they sent me one early, but yeah, it's a case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So which phone did you get? Did you go for though?
I went with the Pro Max.
Okay.
And I got the extra size. I a couple of years ago I swore I'd never get a phone larger than 512. And then I looked at the specs for the shooting of the pictures that I really like to shoot, and then decided that I could never go on a trip without a network because I'd run out of space. So I got extra space. So I went with the full terabyte.
The big boy.
Okay. Eric, I did exactly the same thing. I didn't intend to do it, but when I started looking at the specs and thinking about the use cases I will try to put this phone to, it just made sense, especially when I took my 13 Pro Max and looked at how much space I'm using on there, and I'm not doing any of the projects I'm thinking about doing. It's like, yeah, I've got to go with the terabyte. So, Patrice, did you place any orders?
I did both the Apple Watch Series 8 and also a new deep purple iPhone 14 Pro Max in 256 because I'm barely using the space on this one. But my case came in. I'm not using an Apple case, so I got a speaking one. That's correct. So,
okay,
yeah.
Andrew,
I did order the iPhone 14. I'm tempted by those new AirPods Pro. I didn't order them yet, but I definitely will at some point in the future.
Okay. Jeff, I know you didn't get to do all the research you would normally do. Did you place any orders, or are you waiting?
I didn't place any orders. By the time I had the opportunity to actually start doing some research, everything was already back ordered. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm not in a rush for anything. But based on what I have learned so far, on a side note, it was really interesting being in a position where I couldn't even watch the keynote. And so I've just kind of been learning everything by going and doing some reading. Very different experience for me. Anyhow, so what I will likely order at some point is the 14 Pro with at least 256 and a 41 millimeter Apple Watch. The new AirPods, I need to do a little bit more research on those because I'm not sure if I would get any real tangible value replacing my current iPod or AirPods Pro. And it may very well be that I just haven't done enough research to look to be able to say, oh, actually, I really do need these. But that's where I am right now.
That's interesting. I have a question for the watch people. We'll finish the round here. Jim, what did you order, if anything?
Yeah, I woke up at 5 a.m. and had a little bit of trouble with the store app on the iPad and with Apple Pay. So the order probably didn't go through until maybe 5:15. I'm not sure exactly. And I ordered a purple iPhone 14 Max 512. And when I ordered it, it said pick up on Friday at the Apple store local, which is what I requested. And I'm like, great. Went back to sleep, and I got up. The confirmation said it will be shipped to you September 28th through October 3rd. So,
Okay.
Keep checking the website.
So far, it hasn't changed.
It does.
Yeah.
So every morning, if you go up and look at some of the phones, sometimes a local store would have the model you're looking for, and it will actually give you some options underneath of similar places or stores. And if you buy it and reserve it, you could swap it. So I have a whole PSA about what I've kind of done like that too. But
Okay.
Oh, you're saying check the website to see if it's available locally?
yeah, earlier from Apple.
So you're not saying check my order to see if that changes?
Nope. I'm saying
Okay.
if you find it, even though you ordered it, if you find it
Right.
locally on Friday, which very well might, because it happens,
Right.
then you could cancel your web order and have your phone on Friday. So
Right.
Yeah.
too.
I've heard stories from people where like they came in like 2 hours late and were able to order for pickup on Friday.
To about 3 hours ago, because my son's looking for one now too. I'll get to that when it gets to me, but 3 hours ago, I could still get the phone I want at a store that's not the closest, but the one a little bit further. It's not that far. Friday. So I mean, it's hit or miss, but it's out there.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what the reports are as far as availability for the deep purple color. That seems to be really very, very popular. And so I ordered a black because I
I
figured
read that the black was the most ordered.
I ordered black. I got that one.
Oh, I did you say most ordered, Jim, or most back ordered?
That's what I read.
Yeah, I think it is because it's sort of the default color.
I wonder if Apple makes more of the black phones compared to some of the others because they know how many people.
Oh,
I wonder
I'm sure they try to guess that. Yeah.
Yeah. They
Anecdotally, a lot of people ordered deep purple apparently.
Yeah, that's what my impression.
I ordered.
Yeah.
So
David,
it's always this funny story is always on that situations. Sometimes you end up with a pink phone because you wanted that on launch day. You get the pink phone nobody wants, and so many times I've come close to doing that. I'm like, it's always on the case. It's always on the case. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, David, what did you order?
Got the iPhone 14 Pro Max in deep purple, 256. I had actually a very good experience this year. Last year, I had trouble with the Apple Card not working properly, but I still was able to recover it and still get it that following Friday. And I'm going to be getting mine on this coming Friday. And I did decide to go and order the AirPods Pro the version 2. So those don't ship they don't arrive until the 23rd. For now, I'm going to hold off on the watch and see where that goes and do a little more research. And I just don't see anything that's going to really spark me to go for my Series 7 here. But I'm going to resist.
Yeah. Brittany, how about you? I don't think you ordered a phone because I know you're not into the big phones.
I'm not into the big phones. I did, however, get a watch.
Okay.
An Ultra, of course.
Yeah, that'll look great on my wrist. It'll not weigh me down at all. No, not that there aren't tempting, interesting things, but I mean, I'm a sucker for all biometrics, but it's literally replacing a test I'm already doing every day. So, yeah. New
Warren,
biometrics are always fun.
Yeah. Warren, what did you buy or order?
Sorry,
Warren?
Oh,
yeah. What did you order?
Which one did you order? So I went to I got the black 256 Pro Max that's coming Friday. And I just get another just basic aluminum Series 8, which also comes Friday. So my PSA in story is basically on order day I started having a little bit of problems, but I got right through eventually. But I found after I ordered the next day, I found a T-Mobile kind of announced their promotions, which were pretty good after launch day. So long story short is I got $720 for my phone for Apple as a trade-in towards the phone. No holds bars. That's what they're doing. T-Mobile, when you kind of add the bill credits, things like that, you get $1,000 from them. So it's $280 difference. So I called them. I spoke to them. They can't switch it to the other T-Mobile promotion, but she said if you want, after you get your phone, go to Apple with the phone. You don't have to return or anything, but they could sell you back your phone. They've done it back. They're the only place I could do it. So if you bought, the moral is, if you bought something on order and you want to change your mind because maybe a deal came up better from one of the providers, you could do it after the fact by going to the store, and that's the only way to do it.
Okay. For those of you who purchased a watch, convince David and I. What were the features, or what was the feature that you said, "Hey, I need to upgrade"?
I have no lack of self-control, and I know that if I don't buy it now, then 2 months from now I'm kind of want to buy it anyways, because the watch is that kind of thing where
when I do, I feel better if I waited 2 to 5 months.
It's basically the kind of thing where Apple makes, there's so many varieties of it, and people have in their mind the exact watch they want. So they play this game where they make it hard to get it, and you're going to have to wait months and months and months. And then you stroll into an Apple store and yes, you don't have that, aluminum gold with a band. They're like, oh yeah, we do. And then you have to buy it because that's the one you wanted. And that's what Apple does. So that's happened to me. That's exactly what happened last year to me. I didn't buy the watch, and then I strolled into the Apple store. I said, "You don't have the green 44 with the green band, do you?" Because that's we have it. So,
so for me, it's
just don't go into Apple stores.
That's true.
Impossible.
That's true.
Patrice?
For me, I'm coming from a 6, so there were a couple of things. There is the new, like as Brittany said, like the new sensors, new data. That's always the thing. Better battery life. It's slightly better apparently compared to my 6. I think the 7 even was, and faster charging, and the brighter and slightly bigger screen, which I think was also on the 7 already, so to some extent. That sold me on it, and it was time. So
no ultras. Nobody got the ultra, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there were no ultras.
Tiny fluctuations in things like your heart rate and temperature while you're sleeping can be the first signs that you are fighting off an infection. And that sure is nice to know, so you know exactly when to pop the zinc, because the sooner you do things like that and get rest and, oddly, some exercise, the less likely you are to deeply succumb to an illness.
Oh, that reminds me, guys. I got the 8 because my wife and I are trying again. So,
nice.
Okay.
For her.
No, for me.
Well, it'll help you less, but yeah, in that regard.
The joke is we're 54 years old and we're not trying, and that's.
If you're comfortable saying here, did she track before the watch her basal body temperature?
There was kits, right? I think that we.
It worked.
You don't know the answer. That's okay.
I do.
You
know
can
the
have her
answer.
email me.
This was like like Chuck. This was like in the 1900s when we didn't have technology to do this kind of stuff. But
you had thermometers.
Remember,
they just
wasn't there a device or something that they did have that would kind of track the cycles?
So temperature has been used for a really long time. Ovulation predictor kits have become more common.
Maybe that was
they give different pieces of information.
I think
but temperature has really always been how you've verified that ovulation has actually occurred.
So when the woman comes out and says it's a good time, it's because she has temperature.
No, that's when she says, I don't have to anymore. The ovulation predictor kit and other metrics that I will spare you all from are how you tell that it is coming, so to speak.
Okay. But back to the watch. The watch doesn't do anything because the only thing I heard about the temperature sensor was that it's good for trying to become pregnant.
It actually is very useful.
It doesn't do anything else really of importance, is what I read.
No, you can also detect infections, for example.
Yeah,
but I thought it doesn't. I mean, they didn't say anything like that.
They
did.
Very cautious about their phrasing, and the notification will specifically be something like, "We've noticed an increase in heart rate," which is what the heart rate one has been. "We've noticed a slight increase while you're sleeping, like at night, in your temperature," and it's your job to interpret those because that's what their lawyers said, and say, gosh, I'm going to start sleeping earlier and take some zinc.
But it is weird that, I mean, the whole press conference, Apple did not make a big deal over other benefits of
No,
thermometer other than ovulation. And then,
they mentioned it in like one part of
Yeah.
sentence
would
where they
think-
were like, oh, by the way.
It was
like-
the first thing, and then they spent longer on the other. But a lot of
but it
people
should
don't
have
know
been
about it.
reversed because most people, I mean, if
Meh.
the percentage of people trying to have a baby is much less than people who want enough to getting sick.
Yeah, but there's only
it-
so much they can say about that because, again, lawyers.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, if that's a thing too, you could
Yeah.
do lawyers. I mean, baby making is especially
it's actually
legal.
useful
You know,
more
to
like
tell you the truth, Will,
it's useful for people tracking other health metrics if you are a person who ovulates. So yeah,
I just found it weird that they didn't emphasize more about the temperature sensor other than for women tracking. And
if I was their lawyer, I would have told them not to too.
Mhm.
Same.
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, give it a couple of years.
Yeah.
You saw it with the ECG and so on.
Jim,
Well,
you said
and you have to be careful because some of the things that you could claim would require federal regulation
FDA.
approval.
well,
Mhm.
that's what the thing that you put your finger on. At first, it wasn't approved, and they told you that. And
Mhm.
They said that is EFIB. It was EFIB. It's not
Right, but that served a
FDA
single
approved.
purpose. So
Right,
they
but they
had to say what
specifically
that
said-
was.
right.
Right.
But I
And
think
so
that
here
that's
they're
the
just
thing.
picking a single purpose. And it also happens to be a purpose that's really good to mention because Apple Watch has been sorely lacking in features that women can use.
Mhm.
What
I think
what-
it's
well,
kind of
wait. What can men use that women can't use?
Well, women
the
can
watch
use it. It's
does.
not about what men can use that women can't. It's what's not there for women.
right.
Okay.
Right. This edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of Mac Voices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Jim, you were trying to say something and then you cut out completely and froze.
okay. Sorry about that. I think it's kind of telling that I can go to the drugstore and buy a device for like $5-6 that they will definitely claim that they'll tell me if I have a fever. And Apple's multi-$100
before.
device.
This is before a fever. It's you don't have a fever yet. It's detecting very, very small fluctuations.
Yeah, you're
just
talking about
indicate the early
ovulation.
phases.
I'm talking
No,
about.
I'm talking about early indications of fighting off an illness.
Brittany, can a sensor on
What-
the top of your wrist accurately measure your temperature? And I think that's where we're getting at.
And the answer is no, not
Not yet.
I think the answer
not
is
at
no.
this
Yeah.
not at this compromise that Apple was willing to make on battery life.
Mhm.
I've heard arguments to the contrary that I'm not at liberty to disclose any further, but mostly no, it's not going to give you a number. It's only going to tell you if it's deviating from your normal and by how much.
Right, because
So,
we have
and
indicators,
I've
right?
also-
we have the head. The
Oh,
head.
one
I've
at
also
a time.
read that the wrist is a really poor place to measure temperature.
Right.
Right.
They never.
And that's why they
they'll
have two
always-
sensors.
They'll measure, but they'll measure.
Right.
You need to measure. Like the watch should have something that they could sell you that if you that you.
But the big difference is if Apple were to claim and Apple were to do that, then as Jeff said, they would need FDA approval. So
Yeah.
right now they're simply saying we have something that kind of works and where we can get some information out of it, even if it's not on a legal basis, like medical information. But they will collect that data and then improve the thing that you have and improve the tracking. That's always the approach. I mean, otherwise Apple would have to spend the next 4 to 5 years getting FDA approval for a medical device.
But there are $6
does getting the
devices at
temperature-
CVS that apparently have that approval. So I don't think it's that hard to get. It's just that the device doesn't work very well for that, which
well,
is
the
fine.
device you buy the device you buy at the drugstore tells you specifically where you want on your body where to put it. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
that's the problem. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm not
So-
saying that Apple did a bad job, but it's on your wrist, so they're,
Well,
it can't be
it's
done.
an area that is not well researched. Let's put it
Right,
this way.
but you said that it doesn't work sometimes and sometimes it does, which doesn't make sense to me because it's a constant, right? It's if you have something pasted to your body that's reading what it thinks to be a normal temperature, something changes in your body that changes whatever that whatever it's doing. That's a constant. Like, how would it not work all the time?
I
Just
think
like a
it's
thermometer.
It's
not a
not that
constant.
accurate. It's you're
depends
one of the
on-
reasons it wants to do it at night is there's fewer factors involved for it to filter out. Do the same thing with asking people to be still with measuring brainwaves. But also, if you're looking at a basal body temperature, you're looking at another decimal point past what goes on a normal thermometer. And so you're looking at much smaller fluctuations. It's like if you're a degree or two above normal, your doctor will be like, whatever. And they don't consider that a fever or a serious fluctuation.
Well, and to Jim's point, you can go and buy that $6 thermometer, but how do you know that it really is that accurate? And does it need to be that accurate? For what Brittany's talking about, you need a lot greater degree of accuracy. With that,
but it's not consistently the same, right?
Yeah, well, Warren, you're right. I mean, I've had this with my doctor, about some of the automatic blood pressure cuffs.
Right.
That it's not necessarily calibrated exactly like the doctor's office is. So it's there designed to give you an idea of what's going on.
You get a baseline, no matter what crappy device you have on your body reading your measurement. It could be 5 or 5 million, difference. But if it's a baseline gauge, so if that number goes up, something's different, or down, and something's different. I could buy a thermometer from CVS that tells me I have 56 degrees, but if I take it again and I'm 80, I knew something changed. So,
if you take 56 degrees, Warren, you're on the way out.
At 56 or 80, if you get any of those, you're either dead or your thermometer is.
Well, it could be in Celsius for all. That's happened. How many times you buy? How many times have
doesn't matter what
bought
country
an electronic thermometer off Amazon, and it's in Celsius because it's coming from a country that uses Celsius.
Celsius would be 38.
I didn't do the math.
Yeah, either of those temperatures that Warren suggested in Celsius, you're dead.
Yeah. And apparently, like you've got a lot of energy in your body. You're probably on fire.
You're probably on fire. Yes.
So last question for me, Brittany, since you're the doctors, do you think Apple ever considered using AirPods as a measure of temperature?
I absolutely think that has been tested in a lab before.
Because that is a much better place to get a constant temperature, I think, because usually you point
thermometers that work better.
You want to do it during exercise and stuff like that, right?
So maybe they could do like the thing that you do toward, not the contact one, but something like that. It's kind of made for an AirPod, right? You're right there.
I have wanted them to do that, but again, you're talking about like still you're moving and stuff, and it won't be as constant for the subtle things. But it would be interesting, and I wish they would.
And it means your AirPods have to be bigger.
Yeah, slightly. I mean, the big difference is your watch you're wearing all day, your AirPods you're not.
That's what I was going to
point all night.
Yeah.
Right, but if it's a better measurement of temperature, then people would start wearing them more often. And
well, they would need better battery life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not. I mean, I don't think that would be great for monitoring. I mean, I can see it as a diagnostic thing about, add to an app on the phone. Okay, turn my left or right AirPod on and check my temperature, or combine them and see what's going on. But
and the fact is, they're probably going to use that space for battery or just make the thing smaller. Like realistically, because that's not the job of an AirPod primarily. But it is interesting, huh?
An interesting thing is an iPhone doesn't have a thermometer. It doesn't measure temperature.
No, it does.
Well, yeah, it has a computer.
No, it doesn't.
It knows when it gets too hot.
Mine tells me it's overheating all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't measure. It does not measure ambient air temperature.
Okay, that is a correct statement.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I mean, apparently that's
I've seen
largely
devices
because,
you could connect to it, though. I mean,
well,
there's
sure. But apparently the problem is that the iPhone itself generates, heat that would make it, pretty much impossible to accurately measure ambient temperature. I noticed that maybe the watch, the Ultra, might have that. I'm not sure.
No, the thing with the watch is, and that's something that's very much important for the Apple Watch. Apple is looking at it. What can they add to the market that others can't do, or that is not easily accessible? Like measuring your temperature is like a one-off measurement. As you said, you go to CVS and you get a device for $5. That's not something Apple necessarily needs to do or wants to do. They couldn't compete with a $5 device. But what they can do and what they've done with the heart rate and so on is like constant monitoring and getting your baselines. And that is the thing where they can add value. And that's what they're doing right now. And I think that's also the problem with the AirPods. They would not be a constant measurement.
Counterpoint, you can buy a $20 device that measures your oxygen saturation, but Apple still put that in the watch.
Yeah, because they can monitor that 24 hours.
But there's devices that connect to the iPhone. Like if you go online, there's plenty of devices you could buy that talk to the iPhone that do these kind of things. I've seen.
No, I'm saying you can go and buy a little thing that clips on your finger and it monitors your O2 sat, which is basically the equivalent of the $10 thermometer.
Right, but you're putting in.
I think if Apple could do the temperature, that they'd do it.
Yeah, but Jim, the thing is, you're not just like with the temperature. The thermometer. You're not going to walk around with it all day in your mouth. You're not going to try to keep it in your mouth all night.
It's all about that history.
Yeah, well, and the same thing with the O2 sensor. You're going to clip it on there to see what's going on, but you're not going to walk around with it.
Right. What you guys are saying is there's all these devices are purposely built to measure these things, and they go on your part of the body that could measure it best. Apple doesn't have that unless they sell you those parts. And Apple could sell you the thing that you clip on your finger that you get at the drugstore. Apple could sell you and say, just wear this all day, and it will go on your phone. I
thought Patrice was saying Apple's not going to, they don't need to put temperature in because they don't want to compete with a $5 device or $10 device. So my argument is, I think they do it anyway. All those reasons you said, then, because you've got it on you all the time, where is it? Do you have a thermometer? Where is it?
Yeah, that's exactly my point.
Where's your thermometer, Dave?
Jim, but that's exactly my point. That's what their value add is, that they can do it all the time.
Yeah.
The value add is not, I can do a one measurement.
Patrice is saying all these predictors, whether they're fully accurate or not on one device that you always have on you, may be more beneficial than some other things.
There was quite some research at the beginning of COVID about the Apple Watch actually being able to predict the infection before any test, which was super interesting.
Yeah,
exactly.
Doesn't seem like much came out of that, but
I know of people but they just got a very generic alert that was, by the way, your heart rate has increased. And after that, they realized they had COVID.
Same. That's the first predictor from me.
Once this is in the mainstream Apple Watch that all the people have, all of a sudden it's way easier to conduct a bunch of other research. This thing that is a normal vital that they check every time you walk into a doctor's office. Suddenly they can measure this because it's in these watches. They can conduct more studies. They can see how it can improve their ability to track your sleep. They can start to test and experiment with a whole lot more things just because it's in way more actual public release devices.
But even doctors know that it's not. I've talked to my doctors. They say it's a nice little toy indicator, and we appreciate these devices on you. but here, let me get your real vitals. And I think they know. They say this is kind of, it's good that it got you in the door kind of thing, but it's not a perfect system on your wrist.
My experience with my doctors has been they're so happy that I have an Apple Watch and it's collecting useful data for them.
I've not really
Depends on the person.
Yeah, I've never had a doctor say, let me see what that watch.
I have had one doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
I had one doctor at one point that bagged on the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And I asked him, well, what exactly is it that that's the problem? And he just went on about stupid Apple products and hypochondria. Okay, so
you got an old school, no technology people, doctors who are really good, but that's not.
Well, and Jeff, you bring up an interesting point. It's sort of like looking up. You have a pain in your foot, so you look up something on the internet and you find out that you've got some rare tropical disease.
Never go to WebMD for anything ever.
Google is probably most doctors' real issue.
Jeff has underpants fever. Jeff, you have underpants fever, and that's what WebMD told you.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I can imagine that's in the wrong hands. That could complicate a doctor's life in a lot of ways, or the hypochondriacs. Oh my God, doctor, my heart rate was up 2 beats per minute all day yesterday. Am I getting sick, or is that indicative of anything? I can hear it now, and so
I'm sure still it happens. I'm sure even now. So
this MacVoices panel wraps up the discussions in the next edition of MacVoices, where we take a deep look at the effect that FileMaker and its announcement that it will be free for single users may have on the database market at all levels and on you. That's next time on MacVoices. I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.